Hi, friends. Type Police here. We've got a couple of people who purport to be INFJ male and INFJ female. Now, I'm not done pulling this bullet yet. Let me first say that I'm not necessarily buying the notion that INFJ is the rarest type. So, just because that's what an old study from a long time ago said, it was taken on college freshmen with a bad test, there's no reason to presume that, in fact, yeah. So, let me also just say that
I'm a big starter. A big one.
in no way, shape, or form should anyone be like, well, INFJs are the best type to be or something. Like, I don't know. I guess people want to be them because there's all this bullshit all over the internet about how mystical and magical and stuff they are. But I like INFJs. They're cool. Like any personality type, they're a reflection of their unique cognitive configuration. And
You like banging them.
I like banging them. I've never banged an INFJ.
Oh.
I probably would, but I never have.
I was thinking about your ex.
Which one? Poop
Which
face?
one? No. Do you want me to say her name?
Oh, that one? She was an INFP.
Oh.
And the one before that was an ISFP. ISFP was easier to get along with, really. Anyway, so looking at this, let's see if they are. The key thing to remember with INFJs, I wouldn't want to be one.
I wouldn't want to be an ENTP.
I wouldn't mind being an ISFJ.
ISFJ?
Yeah.
You kind of are one.
I'm growing to be more like you over time. Let's see if these two purported INFJs are actually INFJs.
The fact that Taylor calls you totally gay means I've done my job.
Mm-hmm.
Aww.
I'm here with Lauren Hansen. How are you doing, Lauren?
Doing great. We've had some great adventures this weekend, haven't we?
Yes, we are in Sedona. It's when you see this video, we won't be in Sedona anymore, unfortunately, but it's very nice. What was your favorite thing on the trip here?
I think hiking yesterday so far. We have adventure today, don't
We do. It's a little damp outside, but we might get out there and figure something out. So I wanted to make a video with you about the whole INFJ thing and, talk about some differences and just have a conversation about it. So we're both INFJ, which you want to tell everybody what that means?
we? It means we're introverted, intuitive, feeling judgers.
All right, so out the gates here, let me just say it's not inconceivable that these two are INFJs. Nothing they've done so far suggests that they're definitely not. Of course, what I'm looking for is hyper FE awareness with a lack of. It's all about characters and not about animal self, basically. So let's continue watching.
There you go, folks. So
Supposedly the rarest personality type of the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types. So it means we're social pariahs and feel awkward all the time also.
yeah, exactly. I can relate to that. I think this kind of proved it on our trip here this weekend that there's some big differences between INFJ male and INFJ female. And from my perspective, the female's more wanting to talk, get to know people.
Connect. Yeah, connect and foster relationships for sure.
Right, yeah. And I'm more, back. I just want to, listen and then maybe just kind of just retain my energy by myself. But so what did you said you researched or looked at an article?
I should probably bring up the article. But it just said that INFJ males are very emotional, but they can come off as the strong silent type. for not knowing like how to express that emotion. That they can tend to be, I mean, there were a lot of similarities with both females and males, but I think I would have to bring it up. That was like the main one that I remember. So they can be like obsessive about some things that they're really interested in, and can kind of forget about relationships and connecting with others because they focus so intently on the things that they're passionate about. Would you say that's true?
I would say that sounds like me, folks. Yeah, because I don't focus too much on the connecting. The thing with relationships is it's a lot of work.
It is.
So I just do what I have control over. And that's why I love to just focus on, okay, I got control over this, the videos, the audio, I can do all this stuff. With relationships, it takes a lot of work, and it could be over in the blink of a second for no reason.
I don't know this for sure, so it'd be kind of nice to hear from some other INFJs, but it seems to me that INFJ females, what we maybe tend to be passionate about is helping people, and so that comes with relationship. And
Okay, so again, I'm looking at the FE as a third slot FE user and an intuitive. There are certain kinds of FE vibes that I tend to be able to pick up on some of the time, and like these two seem very hyper aware of how they might come across or how they might be perceived throughout the whole thing. And they seem very socially careful. Both of them do. I would say he's less likely to be an INFJ than she is. She seems pretty INFJ-ish. Kimberly, do you have any thoughts? INFJs are people like Light Bulb, and Oak Lloyd is an INFJ. Corey is an INFJ. Your friend's boyfriend, what's his name? Jay. So what do you think about these two so far?
I don't know yet.
All right, let's watch a little bit more. And the thing is, if they are INFJs, they're not going to give you a whole shit ton of data coming out the gate here anyway. You notice what they're not doing. They're not rambling on like NE types. So.
And he's definitely not extroverted because he's
we tend to obsess.
He's looking at her for all of the information. He's facilitating it by holding the thing, but he's directing it to her. He doesn't really want it.
Right. Well, he seems
and
a little.
He looks at her and not at the group.
He does seem slightly uncomfortable in the role of, like, main guy here or something. But I'm not sure. That could be indicative of INFJ or it could be indicative of INFP.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just making up my own observations.
Yeah, they're good ones. Thank you. Let's see what else they have to say.
Over that and caring for the people in our lives, because we don't have a lot of people in our lives. Any INFJ, doesn't typically have a lot of people in their life, so we value those relationships, and that's how we want to express the feeling and then the judging by taking care of the ones we love. And the males, it's not that they don't love or that they don't. I mean, obviously they have the feeling side, so they feel intensely. But the way that they express maybe more how they feel about the ones in their lives is by, I don't know, doing things for them, or, not necessarily talking about emotions, but doing more practical things. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
I think just being a female, it might be easier to, because
I would say that INFJ males are actually quite caregiving.
The article.
It is true what they're saying though, that they're not going to be explicitly talking about emotions a whole bunch. They're more likely to play with their kid or just generally be affirming or something. Sometimes to a fault. Kids don't need that much FE. They're too easily fooled by it in a way. But regardless, so far I'm leaning more heavily INFJ for her. And I'm split between INFP and INFJ for him. he's got a certain INFP about to cryiness about him, you know?
Came up with is just that it's just so difficult in our society as a male to be expressive emotionally, and you guys were probably taught from an early age not to express it, and so it kind of becomes blocked and restricted, so you find other creative ways to express that, whereas females typically we've been able to express it if we want to, although in my case I was not allowed to cry. I had to cry alone. So maybe I have read that that sort of emotional trauma as a child, like being shut down emotionally, is how we turn into INFJs. That it's like as a result of having to navigate emotional trauma.
But I don't know if that's true what you said there, but I think I've thought that myself many times. The INFJs and ISFJs too typically emerge from environments where they have to take care of themselves and keep an eye on their parents' emotions. If that's the case, then you end up with an S-IDOM or an N-IDOM. They got to know first. It's like if you're really, really well taken care of, you can just ideate first or act first. I think ESTPs, ENTPs tend to correlate with better parenting. Having had better parents. That doesn't make them turn out better, keep in mind. But I think it's interesting that you say that, and I do believe that from my experience, INFJs correlate with parents who are like children, and they're unpredictable, and they have to learn to read their parents and manage them with like FE shit. It's plausible, certainly. I'm unconvinced that people aren't born the type that they are, but it may be the case that they aren't. So I don't have any firm conclusions about that. Regardless, the point is, it's an interesting point she's making, and let's continue.
And I didn't realize how, since we started climbing up on these energy vortexes, how more you're in tune with your emotions. I mean, you didn't either. But I didn't feel too much climbing up on these rocks. I mean, I did feel little vibrations, but it was really affecting you.
Yeah, I think that has more to do just with the healing of the divine feminine right now, especially in my life.
What's that mean?
But I definitely think that all INFJs are highly sensitive people. I can't say if any other point in my life or not. We'd have to come back and see if that happened again. You know what I mean? I think it was just the right time and the right place and the right people to anchor that space.
Okay, so what's interesting is she's demonstrating the tendency probably of an INFJ to be a little bit of a nut job, right? With the healing of the divine feminine, whatever the hell that is. That's NI shit, though. But then she says, of course, let's come back and see what happened again, which is her third slot TE kicking in a couple minutes late, And even then, it's actually probably your second slot FE going, oh, remember, try to sound like you've got good third slot TI. So that's consistent, what I just heard with INFJ. It might also be consistent with an NFP, but they tend to believe that sort of, crystals and aromatherapy kind of, Well, I needed to smell more jasper. When I smelled the jasper, I really opened up my divine.
Don't forget the myrrh.
Yeah. I crammed a bunch of myrrh up my vag, and it was just,
illuminating.
I really felt like one with the divine feminine. I did. Okay, anyway. I still don't know what type the guy is, but he could easily be INFJ.
For me to be able to purge. So for those of you who don't know what happened, we got about halfway up Cathedral Rock and I just lost my SHIT and had a breakdown, you know. I didn't know why. So I think that INFJ females I know what I tend to do is that, I have no problem telling people that I love them because I really love everyone. So that's not a problem. But expressing any other kind of emotion can be tricky for me. Like, I feel like it's going to come out wrong or sound stupid or something. So I always intellectualize my feelings first. Like, so once I understand them, then I can intelligently express. But it's very much an intellectual kind of emotion. It's not like very expressive, fiery, or I don't know. Does that make sense? It's kind of like a cool.
That would sound something like 6-slot TI. I'm sorry. That would sound something like 6-slot FI. Because she's saying she has an abstract relationship with her emotions, which would be consistent with INFJ. Of course, that's self-reporting. You can only put so much weight into self-reporting in any context because it's self-reporting. But the point is that it's still nevertheless consistent with INFJ. Is you could say something like she's an FI user who's talking about her FI a lot, saying, here's how my feelings are really important, and here's how I think about my feelings, and here's how I talk about my feelings. But I would say the level of abstraction suggests more to me like probably a TI user. And the sort of discomfort with her own feelings sounds more like me like 6-slot FI. God, these children. Awful this afternoon. I wish Santa would deliver a Christmas miracle and burn their house down. And they all escape alive, just have to live someplace else. That's the miracle part. You hear that, Cam? Hear that fucking kid just screaming his head off for no reason?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. It's appalling. Anyhow, I'm still not sure about the dude. I'm gonna watch a little bit more when I get my internet properly connected. What's going on here? Connect, motherfucker. There's gonna be another video where I don't get any money for it. Every time I say fucker or fuck or something like that, it seems like YouTube says my video is not appropriate for advertisers. It's like, fuck you. Advertisers want to hear this, for sure. Listen, every time I curse, it makes you want to go out and buy dog food. If I were a dog food company, I'd sign up for Host Eric's advertising for sure. Okay, anyhow. Right. Type please.
Emotion rather than somebody who's very over the top and expressive with their emotions. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. So on this
Another thing we say. Does that make sense?
Well, the thing with INFJs, and we were talking about this last night at dinner, we always have a hard time expressing what we want to say. Like, it'll get discombobulated up here, and then it doesn't come out the way it's supposed to, and it does confuse other people because I see that all the time.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense up here. And then when you try to say it out loud, it's just, I think because we think so abstractly, and that makes a lot of sense to us, but when it comes out of your mouth, it's supposed to be linear in a and a way for other people to understand it. And we just don't think that way. We don't think linearly. We think abstractly. That's why I can't tell a story from point A to point B. I'm constantly jumping around because that's just how my mind works. So I think we all have a case of ADD too.
Yeah, and you can see that in my Sedona Day 2 video at the end of the night there. I was trying to explain the there we go again, sky watching, and then it didn't kind of make sense. It kind of does. You get the point if you're tuned in, but it's just kind of weird. So yeah, you were pretty overloaded on this vacation here because you were kind of controlling all the plans and getting everybody together, and that would be pretty down wearing for me.
Well, everybody had committed to not making any plans, and that's great to an extent, but I think the judging function took over for me, and I just feel like somebody has to make some plans at some point or be the leader. So I think that's interesting too, as introverts, that we don't set out to be leaders, but just kind of by default end up in leadership positions reluctantly.
All right, so this is really interesting. I think it's an interesting case study in the challenges of type policing people. So she's saying a bunch of stuff that would suggest to some people for sure that she's NE. Like, she says, well, she can't tell a linear story. She's always jumping all over the place. You could interpret that as, and then she says she's ADD, ADHD, or whatever. He gives an example of, you can really see that in the Sedona video when I was talking about sky watching or whatever. He talks about how she did a bunch of planning for the thing. You might think, well, that's TE. But then she basically spent her energy discussing the perceptions of others of what she's doing. She's not taking a leadership role. She planned some shit. It's a leadership role in the sense that that's how she'd like it to be perceived. But note also the care with which she talks about herself having a leadership role. She goes, we don't try to take it on, She self-deprecates a little bit by the frame before she enters into it, because she doesn't want to be perceived as self-congratulatory or arrogant or whatever. So that's very INFJ-ish behavior. And even though a lot of things she's saying here might suggest something other than INFJ, to me it just sort of reinforces that she's probably an INFJ. But it also reinforces how there aren't any firm rules when you're doing this, in the sense that I could give you an interpretation of the same thing with other words that says it's NE, and it might sound convincing. You got to consider on some level the multiple interpretations and make a decision, right? Like, okay, this is the best of the explanations. Not this is the first explanation I came up with, but this is the best, and this is why it's the best. This is why this explanation would defeat the other explanations if I were to pit them up against each other. You might say it's a subjective way of approaching the thing, but it's no more or less subjective than any other way of approaching the thing. It is, however, more determinate. Like, I can say, well, the reason we should prefer this type is because these arguments beat the arguments for other types. They're stronger and they make more sense. And we can line them up against each other. Unfortunately, people don't necessarily seem to be jumping at the opportunity to come debate me about shit, so I don't know. I still don't know about the dude, but because he's done such a good job of being like a host guy and asking questions and shit, that's suggestive of INFJ for sure.
leaders, I guess you could say. Not that I was leading anybody, but just orchestrating
More
plans and everything
self-deprecation.
when nobody else really was.
Like,
Because if nobody ever made a plan, nothing would ever get done.
like
That's true.
Like she caught on to what I said. She spiked out what I said. She spiked it out with an additional FE backpedal adjust thing there. So, I mean, I'm sold. She's an INFJ. This dude probably is also an INFJ. I think I've seen enough of them. Okay, you guys are either highly plausible or confirmed. You're plausible. I'm still not convinced by you, but girl, you're an INFJ. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese, and
I'm a stoner.
I'm a stoner. I am a bit of a stoner. I wouldn't say I'm a stoner. I'd say more like a.
Stoner.
I'd say I'm more like a weed enthusiast.
Okay.
Okay. The end.